Now, older viewers might remember that before the tour was on ITV, it was on Channel 4. Even older ones might go back to the 70s, before Channel 4 even existed, when ITV had weekly reports on World of Sport. Phil Liggett is older than everyone, remembers pretty much everything, and ad-libs the rest so well you wouldn't know the difference. He's the only one who was there at the very start, and the only one who could tell this story.
Of course, I knew the guys in ITV, and they said, right, you're going in at the deep end. The floor manager came up and he said, everything all right? I said, yeah, I guess. He said, is this your first time? I said, well, yes, it is my first time. He says, well, look, he said, it's quite simple. The left television is a monitor, the right is a live television. When the pictures match, you're live on television. And then my hero rang me, stunned to silence, was Dickie Davis, who was the anchor on the World of Sport programme, which was well revered. And he rang me up and said, hello, old son. He called everybody old son. He said, just remember why you got the job. I said, that's the problem, Dickie. I'm not too sure why I got the job. But anyway, he laughed with me. He said, just be yourself. And that's the only advice I ever got.
Well, this really has been a marvellous tour so far, especially for the English-speaking riders in the event.
We were only doing 20 minutes every Saturday on World of Sport initially, into the 70s, just into the 80s. And I remember getting all the lines to London because I was sitting in France by myself. And I had to rush out from the commentary position and arrange things, get back, watch the show, do an edit, do the show, all by myself.
Well, after that, I'm not too sure who's out of breath most, me or Sean Kelly, but indeed, what a fabulous sprint, and I think Sean's with me now. Sean, that was one of the finest sprints I've seen for many years.
Yes.
I had to put a sting in the tail, so I used to ask Sean Kelly, who at the time was the world #1. I said, Sean, please, when you finish the stage, wherever you finish, come straight to the commentary box so I can interview it on the tail of the week of racing we've just seen.
I start my sprint and I win quite easily.
And sometimes I was lucky he'd won the stage because he was a great sprinter. And that was the 20 minutes we did on World of Sport for some years. I met a guy called Adrian Metcalf. He came to me, he said, look, you may not know it, he says, but there's a new channel coming out called Channel 4. And this was the early 80s. And he says, I've been asked to be the new commissioning editor for sport, and I want cycling. The theme tune, it went viral, and still to this day, people still write to me, what's the name of that theme? Da 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 da. It was terrific, but for Channel 4, this was a breakthrough moment because, you know, when they first opened up, they only got 200,000 viewers. The Tour de France was becoming a little bit of a lifesaver. They were getting more. And we expanded it. Met a famous man called Brian Venner, who says, I've no idea who you are, I've never heard of you, but I'm told I've got to employ you.
Well, hello and welcome to the Massif Son Trail. We're in an area where the Tour de France has never been before, just above the village of La Bourbole. And as you can see, the weather is absolutely atrocious. And with my voice, well, I'm not getting out of the car just yet.
And one day, we were racing into Blagnac, and the most incredible storm. I mean, the roads went from dry to 3 inches of water in no time. And the weight on the canopy over the televisions, which we were sat under, collapsed. We were all soaked, of course, but worse than that, all the monitors were buried under water and blew up. No pictures at all. But of course, people at home had full service. And so my infamous Brian Venner friend, who was the exec producer, he wasn't on the race, he was in London. And the telephone rang. I go, hello. He goes, we have perfect pictures. I'll tell you what's happening. You just say it. I thought, that's great. He doesn't know that much about the Tour de France finishing lines. But anyway, there's a team at the front in blue jerseys. I thought that'll be Panasonic. So I said, well, there we have the Panasonic team. I have the picture. And all the French, the Belgian, the Dutch came down to see. They thought I was commentating. And Paul Sherwin looked at me and says, no, he's not. He's got no pictures like you. Well, how's he working? On the telephone, they thought. Crazy English, and walked away. In the last 200 metres they came into view, and I leaned over and I was able to pick up the commentary. And I'm commentating as they went past the screen. And I got the winner right, and I was very happy, and Brian was very gracious in his compliment. I'll give him that. And he said, I've never seen that done in my life. And I got a round of applause from all the foreign commentators because they'd been shut down since the rain came. When I look at pictures and moving pictures, ideas flood into my head, and that's what I live on. Well, we were finishing the race on La Plana. The man to beat was Pedro Delgado. Delgado said he needed 2 minutes lead over Roach before the final time trial in Dijon, otherwise he couldn't win the Tour. Roach knew that. And Roach was losing more than 2 minutes at the base of the climb. Fignon was up front, and he was going to win the stage, so our camera stayed there. And in those days, a long time ago, we didn't have the radios and the computers we have now. All I wanted was give me a clue where this man is, because I knew he started the climb 2 minutes behind. Delgado will win the Tour if he keeps that lead coming up. And then Fignon wins, of course, and everybody, the cameras stay on, all the sobs and the cheers. And there's still the battles on the mountain. What's going on? We would need to know, where is Roach? Where is Delgado? Then Delgado came in, and there was no sign of anybody. But just a few seconds later, 2 little legs on the top of the screen.
And just who is that rider coming up behind? Because that looks like Roach.
That's Stephen Roach.
It's Stephen Roach who's come over the line. He almost fought Pedro Delgado. I don't believe it.
It's a few seconds. He'd been 2 minutes behind at the bottom.
You can't see the scenes at the moment, but I can describe them to you because around the side of our camera, Roach is surrounded by photographers. He is almost in a state of collapse, and they're fighting now to get some air to Stephen Roach.
And so he didn't win the Tour that day, obviously, but he'd done all he had to do to win it the next day in the time trial in Dijon, which he did. Can you imagine riding over 3,000 kilometres over 3¼ weeks over some of the toughest terrain in the world and losing a race by just 85 metres? It doesn't bear thinking about, does it? It was impossible for Greg LeMond to win that Tour. He was 50 seconds behind Laurent Fignon on the 15-mile time trial from Versailles down to the Champs-Élysées. And so I opened the show, which we recorded at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I said, well, Paul, who's going to win the Tour? Yeah, it's got to be Laurent Fignon. He says he lives here in Paris, he wears the maillot jaune, he's got all the reasons to do well, and 50 seconds is too much. I looked back to the camera and said, well, I just got a feeling that Greg LeMond's going to win, and he'll win it by 6 seconds. Stop the tape goes to London, that bolts onto the front of the live show. And we're commenting, he said, what do you say that for? I said, well, of course Fignon's going to win, but I don't want the viewers to turn off. So I went for Greg and said, if he won, it wouldn't be by much, would it? That was my theory.
Phil, it's 48 seconds now, with 3 kilometres to go for Laurent Fignon. The gap is 48 seconds. Phil, this is the most incredible thing I think I've ever seen in my life. Greg LeMond now surely is going to win this Tour de France by 5 seconds.
We got the time from Greg. Greg runs over to his wife, who's right beneath our commentary box. She's on the Champs-Élysées with Greg. He's watching the clock. Fignon had to do this set time. And it passed about 200 metres to go in the countdown. 1, 2, down to 8. As Fignon hit the line, he was 8 seconds off. I said, I don't believe this.
He has lost the Tour de France by 8 seconds. Can you believe that?
And my friend, the infamous Brian Bennett, the producer in London, put the key over in my ear and said, next time, Liggett, get it right. And I burst into tears. So it was a bizarre scene. I was crying at the commentary box. Greg was crying with tears of joy and screaming with his wife, Kathy. Fignon was curled up like a fetus on the floor, just sobbing his heart out, having just lost the Tour de France in Paris as a Frenchman. So when people ask me what was my favourite Tour, that was the one.
Masterful storytelling, and that's just part one. There'll be more in the second rest day show, and if he's not done then, we might have to extend the race.